When Mandela emerged from prison, Walter stood right behind him. Always the supporter. Have you ever heard the phrase, "Beside every great man is another great man"? In South Africa's freedom struggle, there was a man who didn't crave the spotlight, but helped light the path to freedom for millions. His name? Walter Sisulu. He was more than just a freedom fighter. He was the mentor who helped shape Nelson Mandela into the leader the world came to admire. In today's video, we dive deep into the untold story of Walter Sisulu, a quiet giant, a master organizer, and the man who held the ANC together when it mattered most. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll not only know his name, you'll remember his legacy. Walter Max Juliet Sisulu was born in 1912 in the village of Qunu, in the Eastern Cape, yes, the same place where Nelson Mandela would grow up. But Walter's early life was anything but easy. Raised by his mother, a domestic worker, he never knew his white father. Poverty was real. Like many young black South Africans at the time, he had to leave school early to work and support his family. He became a miner, a bakery worker, a domestic servant. Jobs that demanded everything and gave very little in return. But these experiences grounded him, made him deeply aware of the injustices of apartheid long before the world called it by name. And it was this life of hardship that planted the seed of rebellion in his heart. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 1941, Walter Sisulu was already involved with the African National Congress, the ANC. He wasn't just a member. He was a connector, a builder. He was looking for people with vision and courage. And one day, a young, tall, quiet man named Nelson Mandela walked into his life. Walter saw something in Mandela, something that even Mandela hadn't yet seen in himself. And in a twist of fate that would change the course of history, Sisulu took Mandela under his wing. He introduced him to political thinkers, to ANC leaders, and yes, to his cousin Evelyn, whom Mandela would later marry. Walter didn't just mentor Mandela. He opened the door to a movement. In 1944, alongside Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and Anton Lembede, Sisulu helped form the ANC Youth League. Their goal? To give the older generation a push, and to make the ANC more militant, more aggressive, and more in touch with the youth. Walter wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but he was often the wisest. He believed in strategy, in unity, and in planning for the long game. He once said, "Revolution is not an event. It is a process." This mindset made him essential. While others argued, Walter organized. While others dreamed, he drew blueprints. As apartheid laws grew harsher in the 1950s, the ANC escalated its resistance. Sisulu was at the center of it all. He helped organize the Defiance Campaign in 1952, South Africa's first large-scale, non-violent resistance. Thousands were arrested, including Sisulu himself. Then came the treason trial in 1956. Walter and 155 others were accused of plotting to overthrow the state. The trial dragged on for 4 years. It was meant to silence them. Failed. And as things got worse, Walter changed. Peaceful protest was no longer enough. He helped form the ANC's armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, alongside Mandela. They were now freedom fighters, literally. In 1963, at a secret farm in Rivonia, Sisulu, Mandela, and others were arrested. It was a massive blow to the movement. At the famous Rivonia trial, Walter Sisulu stood tall. He didn't deny the charges. Instead, he justified them. He explained why they took up arms, why resistance was necessary. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. And so began a 25-year chapter on Robben Island. But even there, Walter led. He mentored, educated, and kept hope alive. His presence was calming. He was the glue. Mandela later said, "Walter Sisulu was like a father to me on Robben Island." Sisulu was released in 1989, just months before Mandela. When Mandela emerged from prison, Walter stood right behind him. Always the supporter, always the steady hand. He continued to serve as a senior figure in the ANC through South Africa's transition to democracy, but remained humble, never seeking personal glory. He passed away in 2003, leaving behind a legacy that shaped a nation. Streets, buildings, and schools bear his name today. But more importantly, so do stories of mentorship, loyalty, and quiet strength. Walter Sisulu proved that you don't have to shout to be heard, that real power lies not just in standing up, but in lifting others as you rise. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold histories, and drop a comment. Who should we cover next? Until next time, keep seeking truth and remember, freedom has many faces. Walter Sisulu was one of them.